The Assure Model by Cecilia Neely, Class 5720 Brochure Project. In going through all of the acronyms, I was able to break down each one into how this project would relate to my students and how I was able to bridge the Assure model with this project if I were to be a librarian in this circumstance. So under the A acronym in analyzing learners, I know from experience as being a teacher that there are some students that have some experience or no experience with technology, whether that's in the library or at school, or maybe they just have it at school. But I made sure to treat this lesson and presentation for my students at a beginning level entry computer skill kind of level. Being aware some of my students may not have technology at home and just very little interaction with computers, I thought to make the brochure assignment more research-based. Under the S acronym, State Standards and Objectives, the Texas standard I used under this acronym, I chose to use the media literacy. Under this standard, students are expected to incorporate technology and show research application. The next S, select strategies and resources. By choosing technology for research, I feel I'm able to bridge the two concepts in helping my learners. Again, there are some students who don't own a computer or have little interaction with a computer. So I feel that being able to research something online is basic and beginning level, and being able to use the keyboard, use the URL pages, and any other resources I can provide would help them be more acquainted and comfortable with technology. So being able to use research as a strategy, I think, is just really useful under the S acronym. In utilizing resources under the U acronym, I felt I was able to create my own PowerPoint on copyright laws, and that really helped developing my own rubric. And if I was a librarian, I think part of being a librarian is building that community in your school. So I wouldn't just make a rubric on my own and not show the teacher. I would want the teacher's input. So I think it is a good thing when a librarian can do work and collaborate with the teacher, and making sure all students have technology and access in the library, making sure students know the expectations that are involved in any lesson or any aspect in using technology, and that all resources could be successfully implemented between librarian and teacher and student, and just everyone working together. The acronym under the R, require learner participation. I felt by producing and requiring a self-evaluation from my students, a form at the end of their project, it helps with participation. It really gets the student feeling comfortable for those who don't like to speak out, or some students don't like to have partners. But at the end of any project, I think having an evaluation is invaluable in their learning process, because they're able to mentally go through the steps of what they've done and identify what didn't work and what was helpful and useful, and be able to take everything from that evaluation and learn from it from any next project that is given to them by a librarian or a teacher. Under the evaluate and revise, the E acronym, having the rubric is so helpful, and having the evaluation at the end of the project. I believe myself as a librarian, getting input from the learner, and the input that I'm getting is if they have trouble relaying information about their learning, you can always tell by the product, the end product. So having a rubric and seeing if the students can follow and would be able to follow that and complete the end product with, and plus having an evaluation. I think it just helps all of our students, and they're able to also pace themselves at the same time. They're able to process their learning. I think it's a way for them to process it in a safe way where they're not being judged. They don't necessarily have to present their work all the time. I think some projects that are more self-reflecting internally, and it's just between them and the teacher, and maybe just having things put up for others to see and view, is another great way to have those reluctant learners shine and be able to feel free of judgment. I think it's a safe way to learn. I think it makes it a more comfortable learning environment in the library and outside the library. So I think having an evaluation at the end is a very good thing. So I'm going to go ahead and go on to the rubric. Here I feel here I developed three standards in proficient, developing, and limited, because I'm thinking at the elementary level, even at a high elementary level. But again, I've always worked with reluctant readers and writers, or students who've had limited access to technology and other resources at home. So I've made it very simple for the students to be able to follow. And of course, as a librarian, we would be able to go over it. So the first part of the rubric is understanding of the content of the copyright laws, obviously after introducing the vocabulary and having them listen to me in the presentation and being aware of the copyright laws. I would have the students earn 25 points for proficiency. That means I felt by looking at their brochure and evaluating the brochure that they understood at a mastery level what copyright laws consisted of, what they were about, what they entailed through their brochure. I felt at the developing level, the brochure was completed, but it may have lacked information, or maybe some ideas might have got mixed up. For limited, I felt like the student may not have understood at all, and that could be for many reasons. There are students with so many different learning styles or that have challenges. So I think by having the brochure and the rubric at this level, it can make it easy for the student to follow as well, because after reviewing the PowerPoint and having discussion, I think students would be able to gain most of the knowledge from that presentation. The other one, because it went with the standard that I was using under the Assure model, was the use of technology. So the research application, citation page, pictures in the brochure that complement the information that were relevant. So under the proficient, I would know that it's apparent that students use technology in aid and understanding of copyright laws. It's more in-depth content. Their writing and spelling doesn't deviate where it's hard to understand the message or what they're trying to say in their brochure or show in their brochure about what they know about copyright laws. The student may have even added some effective images from the internet that enhance that material. Under the developing column for the use of technology, I felt students under the developing column that students use sufficient enough technology to aid in their understanding, but showed some research application skills in their brochure that was more limited. So maybe they used one or two websites, or maybe just one or none, and maybe are doing it by what they heard from me in the presentation. Limited, I felt like students would use absolutely no resources provided by the teacher, or have trouble maybe typing it or using it at all, or were completely confused on where everything was on a computer, so it would be completely challenging for them. But in seeing what I've seen at schools, most students have some understanding of basic computer skills and in research. A pre-draft I really felt was important. on the next agenda for the rubric. I feel like a pre-draft helps those students who may not be as advanced, and those students who are may not need a pre-draft, but to help them get a better grade, and help them have that more developing and proficient grade in the use of technology and understanding the content. If they had a pre-draft and I was able to check in and conference with them, I think it would help those students who maybe lag behind, or who have challenges in school. So students who did a pre-draft, who are maybe more advanced, you would see a more completed blueprint of a brochure. I would have checked it off and have conference with them. There's a clear plan before starting the brochure activity. It would just be more in depth. You would see that detail in that student's work. Under the developing column of the pre-draft, I felt students would probably have finished some of the blueprint. The rubric might be partially completed, and maybe in their conferencing, I would be able to tell they understood some things, maybe not all, and I would have to clarify some of that for them. And that would help me as a librarian know also how I need to improve my presentation in their learning and their lessons when I teach for the students, to the students. Under the limited column in the pre-draft, students would not have completed a blueprint or have complete difficulty doing it, or possibly show no evidence of any blueprint of any source before beginning the activity. And again, that could be for many reasons, behind in maybe certain reading skills and things, but the conferencing is what would be the major component in this pre-draft, being able to conference with me and making that time to make sure that if everyone completes a pre-draft, then they're on their way to good research and being able to put everything they need to in the brochure, because their expectation has been more individualized and one-on-one by having conference with me. And of course, last is the self-evaluation. Under the proficient, students would turn in the final copyright project, the evaluation form. They have reflective thoughts. They showed me and they told me they're writing down what they learned. They're actually getting feedback to me as well as a librarian. And I just think this is great. For developing in the self-evaluation column in the middle, I put students completed less than 50% evaluation. Students attempted the self-reflection piece, but most remains unfinished. And then, of course, after the activity is finalized, for the column under self-evaluation, students did not complete an evaluation. That would be limited, like they just did not turn it in for whatever reason. But if these steps are followed and they're doing the pre-write and conferencing, there is no way that they should not have completed it. It's especially when they would have conference with me.